Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a wild story from ancient Ephesus, one that feels like it could have been ripped from today's headlines. It's all about a massive riot, but the real reason it all kicked off? Well, it's probably not what you're thinking.
And here it is in one sentence. This comes from a guy named Demetrius, a local silversmith, and what he says just lays it all bare. The huge citywide riot, it wasn't really about religious devotion. Nope, it was all about the money. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in Ephesus, a major bustling city in the Roman Empire. The Apostle Paul shows up, and for 2 whole years, his ministry is just on fire. I mean, it's a huge success. But all this spiritual change, well, it was creating some serious economic waves under the surface. It was like a fault line, just waiting to rupture.
And we're not just talking about a couple of people here and there having a change of heart. Paul's message was so powerful, it was literally changing the entire spiritual map of the region. I mean, huge numbers of people were just walking away from idol worship. And as you can probably guess, that was about to become a major problem for a certain group of people.
So, what was the big problem? Well, this massive spiritual shift took a direct hit at the city's biggest industry. The whole economy was practically built on making and selling idols and shrines for their goddess Artemis. So you see, this wasn't some polite theological debate. This was about money. It was hitting people where it hurts, right in the pocketbook.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the main guy stirring the pot, Demetrius. This guy is a silversmith, probably the head of the local union, you could say. And his business? It's tanking. Why? Because nobody's buying his fancy silver shrines of Artemis anymore. So, when he looks at Paul, he doesn't see a man of God. He sees the guy who's about to put him and all his buddies out of business.
And this right here, this is the heart of it all. It is a straight-up, head-on collision of 2 completely different worldviews. You've got the gospel's message saying, hey, gods made by people aren't real gods. And then you have the entire identity of Ephesus shouting, great is Artemis! Their culture, their pride, their economy, it was all tied up in this goddess. You just can't have both. Something was bound to break.
So Demetrius gives this speech, and it's a work of art, really, in a manipulative kind of way. He perfectly mixes that economic panic with a big dose of civic pride. He basically tells all the other craftsmen, look, this guy Paul is threatening our jobs, our famous temple, and our goddess. And boom, that was the spark. The whole city was about to explode.
And when I say explode, I mean it. An absolutely furious mob forms. They grab 2 of Paul's buddies and they drag them into the city's main theater. Now get this picture in your head. This isn't some little community playhouse. It's a massive open-air arena that could hold 25,000 people. And it is filling up fast with a very angry crowd.
So they're all packed in this theater. And what do? They just start chanting, great is Artemis of the Ephesians, over and over and over again, for 2 solid hours. Can you even imagine that? The sound must have been absolutely deafening. A relentless roar from thousands of people, totally swept up in this mob frenzy.
And here's the craziest part, the detail that just shows you how irrational a mob can be. The Bible tells us that most of the people in there, they didn't even know why they were supposed to be angry. They had no clue what was going on. They just got swept up in the shouting and the chaos. It was pure emotion, completely unhinged from any kind of reason.
So you've got this absolute chaos. It's at a fever pitch, and it feels like anything could happen. And then, right at that moment, an unlikely hero steps in. And get this, it's not a follower of Paul, it's not some religious figure, it's a government guy, a city official. And he doesn't use guards or weapons to quiet the mob. He uses something much more powerful, common sense.
This city clerk, seriously, he puts on a clinic in crowd control. He just methodically takes apart their anger piece by piece. First, he starts by flattering them, appealing to their pride in their city. Smart. Then he points out, hey, these guys you dragged in here, they haven't actually broken any laws. Then he tells them, if you have a real complaint, take it to court. And for the final blow, he reminds them that starting a riot is a fantastic way to get the Roman army to pay you a very unpleasant visit.
And that was the killer argument right there. The clerk basically says, look, you brought these men here, but they haven't robbed our temples and they haven't even badmouthed our goddess. He legally clears them. They broke no Roman law. And with that one statement, the entire legal basis for the riot just evaporates. Poof. Gone. The mob had nothing left to stand on.
And just like that, the storm was over. The missionaries were safe, and this whole crazy incident ends up becoming this incredible example of how you just can't stop the gospel's message. It faced down a massive economic attack, a full-blown cultural meltdown, and walked away without a scratch.
So why does this ancient riot matter to us right now? Well, there are a few huge takeaways. First, the gospel is always going to rub systems of power and profit the wrong way. It just will. Second, a lot of the time, when people get angry about faith, you got to look under the hood. It's often about money and self-interest, not really about theology. And maybe most importantly, God can use anybody to protect his people, even a government official just trying to keep the peace. It proves that no matter how loud the mob gets, God's plan keeps moving forward.
And that leaves us with a really sharp question to think about, doesn't it? This story pushes us to look at our own world and ask, what's our Artemis? Where does our faith run up against the economic systems of our day? What are the modern idols, the things built on profit and power, that the gospel still challenges? That's something really worth thinking about.